In this video, we'll look at creating rubrics and using those rubrics to grade papers and essays that your students submit. So let's jump on over to our demo Google Classroom. And you'll remember in a previous video, we created this research paper assignment. So let's make a rubric for that assignment. I'm going to hit Edit Assignment since I didn't add a rubric when I initially made the assignment. And I'm going to go down to this plus rubric button. Hit that, and it'll give me some options. I can create a new rubric, I can reuse a rubric, I can import a rubric from Sheets. In this video, we'll cover creating a rubric and reusing a rubric, and actually doing grading with those rubrics. In a later video, we'll talk about importing a rubric from Sheets and sharing rubrics between professors. So let's hit Create Rubric, make a new one. And you can see here, it's setting us up to put in our first rubric criterion. So let's say originality. Give a description of the rubric. This is not a very useful one, but you can tell your students sort of what you're looking for here. What this is you determine the different levels that students can achieve at for this rubric. So at the lowest level, let's say, I'll say not very good. That's level 1. I can give another description here if I want to give, for instance, examples of what would earn that points level. I'll add another level. So this is a little bit better. And let's add a last level. So this is obviously not a very useful rubric, but we'll stick with it here. We can add another criterion and do the same thing. I didn't want to do this that way, so I'm going to delete this criterion. We can also add another criterion by, on our first criterion, say I want a similar scale, but a different title. I can go up to this kebab and pick Duplicate Criterion. Maybe this next one, instead of originality, will be use of research. And it has the same point scale. So you can see we have 2 criteria in our rubric. And this, the total points in the rubric, this does not have to match your assignment. We'll see how this works during the grading section. You can put them in as levels. Think of these as levels instead of actual points that your students are earning towards their grade. So I'll hit Save. And we've created a rubric for this assignment. Go ahead and assign it so that my students can do the assignment. So what about cases where we don't want to create a new rubric? Maybe we have a standard rubric we use for all of our paper assignments. So let's create a new quiz assignment. Remember, I use that for all of my graded assignments. Let's just call this essay assignment. And here, I want to reuse a rubric that I use for all of my essays. So I'm going to hit plus rubric and choose reuse rubric. This will bring up this particular class. I can also use rubrics that I've developed in other classes. I'm going to pick this one, and it brings up every assignment that I've created a rubric for. Here, I'm going to use the rubric that I created for the literature review essay. Choose that, and you can see the rubric from that assignment is added. If I want to edit that rubric, I can simply click on this and see what was included in that rubric. So how do we grade using these rubrics? What does this actually look like? So let's go to this literature review essay assignment. You can see 2 of my students have turned this assignment in. I have that rubric, 3 criteria, for a total of 21 points, so 3 criteria with 7 levels, 7 possible achievement levels for each of them. I'm going to check out the assignments that students have turned in. So let's open this student's assignment. When you open the assignment, you'll notice this is this particular student. You can see whether it was turned in on time or submitted after the deadline that you chose. You can also toggle between papers submitted by your different students, either by picking them in the drop-down or by using these arrow buttons. So no more opening each student assignment separately. You can just toggle back and forth. And for grading, you'll see that as I read this, my rubric is on the side. And here are the 7 levels of my rubric: expert, advanced proficient, proficient, advanced intermediate, intermediate, advanced beginner, and so on and so forth, for each of the sections of my rubric. If I hit this caret, it will remind me what my different levels are and other features of my entire rubric. To assign a grade, I simply click the box that corresponds to the level I would like to give for each part of my rubric. This is actually very cool because, so my total assignment I had said is worth 100 points. My rubric only had 21 points in it. Google Classroom automatically adjusts the points that I give on the rubric to fit with the level of overall points achievable for the assignment. I can also add a comment. To my student's assignment. And as I'm reviewing the actual assignment, I would highly recommend you go up to this button, Suggesting Mode. You can make suggestions in your student's text. And when your student looks at this paper, they will have the option to accept that suggestion, add it to their paper, to reject the suggestion, it didn't fit with what they wanted, they weren't going to use it, or to reply and send you a back and forth message about the suggestions you're making, which you can then in turn reply to. So you can have conversations with your student about their assignment in the assignment itself. Another thing you can do, say I want to comment on this sentence, is go up here to the speech bubble, add comment, and I can write something in. And hit comment, and I've left this note for my student. And again, my student can converse back and forth with me once they receive the graded version of their essay, so they can ask questions. If they say, what's not quite right about this, I'll receive that, and I can put another response to it. So, the last thing to look at is actually this button, the comment bank. There are some comments I make a lot on my students' papers. For instance, here are 2. To add a new one, say I use great as a comment a lot, I'm going to type it in there, and hit add. You'll see it shows up in the comment bank. If I want to use that comment in my paper so I don't have to retype it every single time, I simply hit this kebab, copy to clipboard. Then, when I'm in my student's paper, if I add a comment, I can just Command V to paste it and not have to retype the comments that I use again and again. And this comment bank does follow you between assignments, so the comments that you like to use a lot on all different assignments will already be in your comment bank when you open those assignments up. Once I'm done, go back to the grading tab up here. I've given my student my overall comments, I've completed the rubric, I'm happy with their grade. I come up here and I hit return. Student will be notified and can check the grade. This is just double checking this is really the grade you want to give, and I'll just hit return. You can see that that grade shows up here when I'm looking the assignment. And also, if I go to the grades page of my Google Classroom, that grade shows up for that student in my gradebook.